Watch Who?
Hello, and welcome to Watch Who. Sorry about the noise. Namin is playing the organ a bit loud here. This is a Doctor Who podcast. Namin, keep it down. I've told you, stop playing the organ. Anyway, I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to Watching Who.
Yep, watching for the very first time.
Very first time.
Yep, I don't think he knows Madonna on the organ, unfortunately.
Does he know Phantom?
I'm sure he does, I'm sure. He's a very good organ player.
Especially, I don't know if you noticed this, when he walks away from the organ and the organ continues playing.
Oh yeah, I've never realised that.
He's really good there. I'm like, skills. There's some skills.
Yeah, it's Pyramids of Mars this week, in case you hadn't realised.
Ooh, yeah.
And sure, I think we should go straight into it. I don't have any updates, but I've got a lot to say about the story.
Okay, yeah, let's just go in. Let's do it.
Because this is another major fan favourite. Like I say, for all of this whole series is. And I have no idea what you think. So
I've not said a thing. I really enjoyed it.
Ooh, okay. Because this was one of the ones that was shown on the 90s on TV. So I had this on video very early on. It came out on DVD really early. I've even got Pyramids of Mars poster magazine from the 90s. A whole dropped it. A whole Doctor Who poster magazine dedicated just to this story.
Wow! Oh my god!
It's a really good one. And there's going to be a few people that it's not their favourite, but I think you'll be very hard to find people that have bad things to say about this story. So I'm glad generally that you like it at the moment.
I did this almost in one sitting. I did it in one night.
Do you know what? When this comes out on Blu-ray as like a quote, that should be, I did this in one night, Sarah Chu. That should be on the Blu-ray collection.
Almost
an endorsement.
So I did the first two, and then context. In Cardiff right now, it's the first weekend of July. Whenever it's the first weekend of July, it's the Cardiff food weekend thing. So it's like 100 food stalls and markets and things, and it's literally 5 minutes from where I live. It's ridiculous. So I've had every meal there like all weekend. I had my lunch there on Friday. I had lunch and tea there on Saturday. So I started watching this, and then I went to the market to go and get my tea. And then I came back and I watched a third one while eating my tea. And I had a little bit of a break. I put the washing on, tied it up a bit, and then I watched the fourth. So almost one sitting, but it was definitely all one night.
Wow, that is really good. That is amazing.
That's a very good sign. That's a very good sign.
I did part one yesterday, and then I did it all again today. Actually, the whole thing right through, and it just breezed part. I mean, I know it quite well anyway, but making notes and things. It just went really quick, which is a great sign.
Yeah. The story feels round and complete. We've not had anything historical that way for a while, but this is new historical.
It's the good, it's not pure historical. It's got your science in it as well.
Yeah, it's like we're doing a historical thing that people, but might understand as historical, but we're going to put our new spin on it.
Which is what Doctor Who does very well. So part one, we start off with some stock footage of Egypt, which is a nice opening. And we haven't really been to Egypt that much. So I don't know if you remember, we went to Egypt very briefly in the Daleks' Master Plan with Sarah Kingdom and Stephen and the monk when they were getting the Terranium core from Mavic Chen.
God, yeah, I forgot that.
It wasn't a proper, there were some pyramids, but it wasn't like a proper Egyptian story. And then we sort of had Tomb of the Cybermen was a bit, we said was like Tutankhamun's tomb. But I'm surprised that all this time we haven't done this classic mummies in bandages style Egyptian thing.
Because I was trying to think if one of the missing episodes was, but they weren't. No.
No. And it's a really good, interesting opening because it's not just in the TARDIS or anything. It is, what's his name? It's Marcus Scarman doing the sort of Howard Carter opening the tomb. So then you've got that intriguing opening of like, what is behind there's something behind the tomb and the green light. Ah! And then we have, like you said last time, the TARDIS spinning again in space, which you like.
I do like that.
And we're in the TARDIS control room, a bit brighter than before. And talking about the TARDIS, the TARDIS got that like humming background, that sort of when they're in there.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a 10-hour loop of it on YouTube, right? The sound.
What?
And I slept. I did a bit of AMSR to it. I had about 3 hours sleep just with that humming in the background this morning. It was really nice.
Oh my God. Okay.
So I do actually made me feel a little bit ill, a bit like weird in my ear, but it was quite nice. I did fall asleep to it. Just that sort of like TARDIS noise.
Was this a specific? Someone has put that as a 10-hour thing of the TARDIS.
Yeah, you can get all the different. This was the 60s one. You can get all the different TARDIS, like the new modern one sounds as well. I mean, it's not like the engines. I think you can get the engines as well. That's a bit much, but I've been doing a little bit of AMSR recently. I had like rainforest and
I like
fire.
A bit of ASMR. ASMR?
Yeah.
AMSR?
Yeah.
ASMR?
AMS. Oh, whichever.
Oh no!
If
I overthink it, I get it wrong. So ASMR. I'm going with.
I had that. The TARDIS hum does work.
So you had that woman, the talking woman. You must have. She's like probably whispering.
Oh no! I wouldn't want anyone whispering to me.
She doesn't. She whispers a bit, but then she's like brushing her hair, and it sings like that. She's really popular. I used to like knock out with that.
Oh, no, if someone's going to talk to me, they've got to be reading me a Doctor Who story or like a Doctor Who book audio.
I thought that'd excite you actually more than I feel a bit unnerved that like Doctor Who makes you fall asleep.
No, if it's like an audio book, like Tom Baker reads Pyramids of Mars, audio, the novel, that's quite relaxing.
Okay.
Anyway, right. So anyway, we're in the TARDIS and we get Sarah Jane wearing Victoria's dress, supposedly.
I know. So do you know what? When that happened, I was like, wardrobe, because we've talked about this. They've not mentioned the wardrobe in ages, and suddenly the wardrobe comes back up.
It's a bit odd. I mean, I don't think Victoria ever wore anything like that particularly.
I wonder why they chose it. Well, other than the fact that they've gone in the past and they didn't want it to look too out of context, maybe.
I think that's what it is. I think it feels like you could almost go back and add that scene later on because they don't know that they're going to land in the past. It's an accident that they land because they're on their way to Unit HQ and they land in what would be the laboratory, but back in 1900 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is a nice idea. So, but then Sarah is dressed up, ready for all the action of being in the time. It's a bit of a coincidence, really, and it works. And actually, that look, I was going to say later on, while we're doing Clothes Watch, let's do a major one. It's very much like the sort of Hollywood Curse of the Mummies 2. It was what someone would wear in that sort of Hollywood version of it as well. So it's perfect. But bright white in that forest, when they're hiding later on, she's done it again. Same with the yellow jacket.
It's like yellow Mac all over again.
What she needs in this is those camouflage trousers from Genesis of the Daleks.
No,
that's what she needs.
Also, she mentions she's from the 80s.
Okay, I'm going to get to that. I knew you would pick that out. Yeah, we'll come back to that. They land in this historical house, and we've got Namin playing the organ very loudly.
Yeah,
it's great atmosphere. It really fits, and it made me think. Just on a side topic, people that play instruments in Doctor Who, they should get together, our side characters, and make a band.
Right.
So you've got Namin on the organ, Angus from the Terror of the Zygons on the bagpipes.
Oh my gosh.
Second Doctor on the recorder, Nero on that harp thing. Can you think of anyone else? Are they the only four I can think of that's played instruments?
That's the worst band ever.
Yeah, I'm sure there must be somebody else that we've seen play an instrument. I don't know. But
I don't
those
know,
four,
not yet.
There we go. I thought they could get together and make a little musical band. Because I think it's quite rare that you see someone playing music.
In Doctor Who?
Yeah.
I didn't even think of Nero on the harp until you said it. So I can't think of anyone.
Anyway, let us know, everyone, if other people that have played musical instruments to add to our band. I'll put a picture together.
There have to have been episodes we've watched, not up.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I remember Peter Capaldi played the guitar as the Doctor.
Oh, God. Oh, wait till we get to that. That was a disaster. I'm not a fan of that. I don't want to go off on one, but that was the worst idea ever.
Well, I remember hearing about that being filmed.
Right.
Because I knew people in it as extras.
Oh, it was awful. Terrible that he played. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Namin on the organ. Anyway, he's in. And what do you think of the sort of the characters? So did you get what was sort of going on so that's Marcus Scarman's house, and he's sort of come over, and the guy at the beginning has sort of gone missing in a way, and that his friend turns up to say what's going on.
Yes. Yeah. I got all that, yeah. So you explaining it, I didn't then, but I got it.
And the butler, Collins, is really fun.
Oh, I liked him. Him.
Yeah, that was a shame when he got killed straight away. But someone's got to get killed first off to make it a threat and a mystery. So you got Dr. Warlock, who gets shot straight away. And then
I thought that Dr. Warlock's death would be the death to get us going, but no, it's lose a butler too.
This is how the story, as a four-parter, just goes straight into it, because the Doctor and Sarah gets caught up in it straight away.
Do you know why it works, though? There's not mountains of characters to follow. You've got the mummies, but they're just robots. You don't need to, you just know that mummies are there. Fine. But otherwise, Doctor and Sarah, the Egyptian organ-playing guy, the Doctor that's possessed, his mate, Butler Gardner. There's like 7, and 2 of them get killed quite early on. So that only gives you 5, 2 of which we know quite well. So you've only really got and then later, of course, what's his name? Horsehead.
Sutek, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very contained, although it feels like a bigger epic story going on, and we do have different locations, and it's not just all stuck in one room. I mean, there's a lot of the location stuff helps with that. So we're already in part 1. We've got that chase in the forest, and the mummies are there. The only thing that when you first see the the mummies are in the sarcophagus thing, they look a bit fake to me, because I think they've had to make them to fit the mummy costume in, and it feels a bit chunky. It doesn't feel very real. It looks very proppy to me. That's the only thing I would criticise.
I thought the mummies were going to be, I'll be honest, what's the names from Mars?
Ice Warriors.
Yeah, I thought, so here's where I was thinking. I thought that they were going to come in, because they look that sort of build. They're quite, and I thought they were going to take off their things and they were going to be Ice Warriors.
Oh, there's a twist. They should have thought of that.
And then, but when they said they're robots, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're great design.
Kind of like K1.
Like the robot, the big robot, yeah.
Yeah.
In that way.
Was it K1?
Yes.
Thanks. Sometimes I surprise myself. They had that sort of build.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and that sort of lumbering walk, but they walk better. And to see them on film going through the forest, they are quite menacing.
Yeah,
and I like the way we've got all this Egyptian stuff, but actually, as we find out as it goes on, it's alien. It's not supernatural, and the mummies aren't mummies. They are robots. The explanation is there. I like to have that scientific back, a bit like with the demons, where it wasn't the devil or anything. It was actually aliens.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I like to have that explanation, but you don't know that immediately. But I like how, we're immediately in it. The Doctor sort of is talking about what's happening. He seems to have heard of Sutek and all that kind of thing.
Also, Sarah.
Well, she knows a bit of Egypt stuff. I mean, I don't know. I don't know my Egypt. I mean, I know Tutankhamun.
But no, Sarah seemed quite knowledgeable on it. She seemed like he said, and she was, oh yes, he's from. And because then she goes, well, he's dead. And that's when.
Yeah, I mean, I think unless she did a story on it one day, she might have written for British History magazine one day or something, or done an article. I mean, yeah, there's nothing to say that she wouldn't know that. And maybe back in the 70s, people knew a bit more about that stuff in a way, in sort of, I don't know, in schools and things. I remember.
I think it just speaks. Sorry, I'm eating some fudge. Sorry, not sorry. I think it just speeds the story up, her knowing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the other alternative is her to say, but who's that doctor? And then he can explain to her in the audience. But it's all sort of shared
But we don't
out.
need it to understand the story.
No, you just need to know it's some pharaoh guy that's trapped that was an alien, which the doctor explains.
And like from that time. And that's kind of all you need to know. And I think it's literally just a speeding up the story device for her to know and understand it.
Yeah, and the point comes across. There was a documentary on Channel 4 years ago about Egyptian. It was telling the story of the pharaohs and who did what sort of thing. This one cursed this one, or all the mythology of it all. And it was like all graphics, so it was like space, and it was done in sort of very 90s sort of 80s sort of neon graphics with this voiceover, and that's all it was. And I was quite young at the time, but it just seemed to be hours and hours of just this voice being like, the pharaoh did this and then cursed upon this and then did this and then did this. But it was a bit of a sort of strange voice, and it sort of terrified me and bored me at the same time. I remember thinking it was the feeling of watching this was not a nice feeling, and I can't really describe it. It was just,
maybe you had to be like on drugs.
I don't know. It was just really odd, but I need to look that up and see if I can find that, because I would like to try and see it again. But it was just odd. And then whenever sort of Egyptian mythology comes up, I always think of that documentary on Channel 4 about. Anyway, so when they run back to the cottage, what's his name shot, and they meet the brother. So we've got Lawrence is the brother of the possessed guy, and that's when they all chat about what's going on. And yeah, Sarah says she's from 1980. Hi, I'm a journalist. I'm from 1980.
Yeah, and she says it a lot. She says where the time period she's from a lot.
So this story throws a huge spanner in the works. This is part of why nobody can work out when the unit stories are set, because I mean, you're even aware of this discussion on when all those Third Doctor stories are set, and this is why, because Sarah says she's from 1980. So that implies that a lot of the unit stories would happen a few years in the future, because we're in 1974, 75 at the time. So when Sarah joins unit, it should be sort of mid 70s. So this is a point where, everyone's like, well, she says she's from 1980 in Periods of Mars, so that means some people have tried to explain it away where she sort of rounded up where she's from. But if you're from the mid 70s, you're not going to say you're from 1980, are you?
No, you're just going to say you're from the 70s.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't sound as right. Hi, I'm a journalist. I'm from the 70s. I don't know, but actually, if we just skip forward to that bit where the doctor.
What do you mean it doesn't sound right? What do you mean?
Oh no! If you say hi, I'm from the 70s.
Well, the difference is I'm saying hi, I'm from the 80s.
Yeah, but she said I'm from 1980.
All right,
it's a very specific year.
Oh,
isn't
I
it?
see. True. Okay, yeah. I'm with you more now, yeah.
But if we skip forward to later on in the story, while we're talking about the year, the bit where the Doctor takes Sarah forward in time to say, because she says, and I'm surprised we've not had this before in any of Doctor Who, she says, well, let's just go. We're in the TARDIS, let's just go, because I'm from the future. I know it doesn't happen. And he's like, well, actually, it can happen. And I think they've done that a little bit in the new series. It comes up again and again. This is the explanation. It's taken them like 13 seasons to explain that, but it gets, then that sorts out any plot holes, I think, and explains away stuff. And that's a really good scene, that.
Well, now we are here, why don't you tune up 1980 and we can, well, leave?
I can't.
Oh, why can't you?
Because if Sutek isn't stopped, he'll destroy the world.
But he didn't, did he? I mean, we know the world didn't end in 1911.
Do we?
Yes, of course we do.
Do you know what, though? It did make me think, while watching it, and watching Sarah in particular, that she's, as a character, she's starting to get a little bit fed up and tired of all this.
Well, she's very relaxed in this. At the beginning, she's sort of messing around and she's taking everything in her stride.
We've been down this merry-go-round before.
With
many, like
oh,
like I'm thinking like Ian and Barbara, they were very settled, and then they start getting a bit more angsty and a little bit more. Well, why can't we? And maybe not Susan or Vicky in the same way, but definitely Barbara
yeah, I see.
and
Yeah, Barbara and Ian. Yeah, I see what you mean because that bit where they first, what's his name, shot. They're talking to Lawrence Guy, and she's sitting in that chair, sort of just like, I'm just going to keep her at the back, just watch while the doctor's explaining everything, and they're looking at that machine and everything, and she's sort of just having a little rest in the background, like, yeah, we do this all the time.
And that's the thing. That's how it started with Ian and Barbara. That it's sort of like the sort of, yeah, this is what we do. This is the sort of like our life. But hers is different in that she genuinely does want to go back. There's sort of more of a want to be like, I mean, that was the whole point. She was going to go back. It just happens to end up in a different time again.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just to carry on the adventures, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure.
Put it this way. All I'm saying is the way that she's been this season, I wouldn't be surprised if this is her last season.
Okay. Well, we will find out. But she's still great in this. Her acting is still amazing in this.
Oh, completely. And like I'm just saying in terms of how they write for the character. I mean, it happened with what's her name? Last one.
Joe.
Like Joe, the last few episodes were starting to get a little bit touchy about things, and then she met Cliff.
You
know, and this is how it happens. They write it in running up to it. Now, this could just be a one-off, but I'm just saying, I don't know what's coming. I haven't got a clue when she goes. She's been in it for a while as well. This is what, her third or fourth?
Third
Year?
I still can't believe that shows what an icon Cliff was, because you mention it a lot. We always go back to Cliff, don't we?
And Keys and Marinus.
Cliff and Keys and Marinus. They have earned their place. So moving towards the end.
He deserved that icon award, that's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, obviously he's still coming up now in the Pyramids of Mars. Going into the end of part 1 where we get Namin doing the organ and summoning who I think he thinks is Sutek, but it's Sutek's servant. And the way that I mean, it's PVC Man, I wrote down.
Yeah.
It's all in black. But the way that when he walks, he's got the steam
with the
and he
smoke
kills
coming
it.
Through him.
And the scream at the end, it's quite violent. I mean, this is, you wouldn't get this in the 60s, would you? You wouldn't get...
Oh, I don't know. We did have violent deaths then, but no, it was very cool.
I bring Sutek's gift of death to all humans.
The smoke coming through was like under him as he stepped was really cool. This is where though, like where I have a lot of appreciation for the show. Little things like that. Oh, do you know what? The costume is what the costume is. But someone's thought about how he walks, how he moves. There's another one later on when he gets shot and the smoke goes back in. And there's things like that where I'm like, that's when it's really clever, because all they've done is just reverse. But it could have just been something else. And that's been a considered thing, that this sort of exists as like this smoky being that's held in, and he walks out of that thing, and each step there's smoke. And it's things like that. You can have something very simple and plain, but the effect that's done to it is really striking. And that's where it really works. And that's when I have credit. That's when I get annoyed when they don't put the effort in on others. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because this is so simple, but so effective.
I think, yeah, it's the sets are amazing within that house thing, period. You've got Namin Fezman's acting to that as well, which is great. Then you've got PVC Man, with the smoke and the voice the way it's just slow and considered, and he walks down slowly and he talks slowly and he's like, I'm going to kill you, like that, straight away. The power, it is very simple. It's a man in PVC with some smoke, but it just works. And that is a cliffhanger. Waiting for next week after that. violent thing. But also I think it is quite a step up in terms of gore and horror, because when Sarah sees that face in the TARDIS in part 1, she looks up and I think that's really horrible. I think that looks really realistic, that sort of thing. I think that
It just reminds me of a horse.
yeah, but it's very much like the drawings from Egyptian. They've modelled it on real Egyptian things. But I don't know. It looks.
Wales. What do they call it? They have a horse, like a horse skull that comes out in the street.
Yeah, it's a tradition, isn't it? Every year, it's I can't remember what it's called, like a horse skull thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of that. Oh gosh, what is it?
I can't remember the name, but I know what you mean.
I'm gonna Google Welsh horse skull.
Yeah, but I think maybe because it was on film, it just looks very. I don't know. It's got substance to it. It looks a bit damp and wet. If you poked it, it would be fleshy.
Mary Lloyd, LWYD.
Yes, that's it. What's the tradition of it? It's definitely a Welsh.
It's a wassailing folk custom. The tradition tells the use of an eponymous hobby horse, which is made of a horse's skull mounted on a pole and carried by an individual hidden under a sackcloth. It's a tradition performed at Christmas time by groups of men who would accompany the horse on its travels around the local area.
That deserves a Doctor Who story. The Murray Lloyd.
The men would carry the Murray Lloyd to local houses where they would request entry through song. The householders would be expected to deny them entry, again through song, and the two sides would continue their responses to one another in this manner. If the householders eventually relented, the team would be permitted entry and given food and drink.
They've done it in a realistic way. They didn't have to go the realistic route. They could have been a bit more fantasy about it because they are alien. But the way that they've done it, when she sees that face and the terror in the face, I felt that.
Oh, did you? See, I didn't. I felt it more later when we saw him sat in his chair and all that, and then the mask comes off and all that. But that sort of face coming up, I was just like, okay, this is the next villain. This is whatever this represents as our baddie.
Well, going into part 2, because our Fez guy's dead, because in part 1 you think he's going to be the main baddie for the whole story, and then actually he's gone, and now we've got Marcus Scarman. I mean, we've already lost. We haven't lost the other two yet. But then it refreshes even in part 2. There's more new stuff to come. When did we lose
the butler? I thought the butler went in part 1.
Oh, sorry. The butler goes in part 1. It's Marcus. The guy with the shot arm goes in part 2, I think. But we get Marcus Scarman now, who has been hypnotized. Like, the makeup is a really good, simple
really
effect.
Good. Yeah.
And that actor, you wouldn't remember him because he was animated. He was in the second Doctor's first story, Power of the Daleks. He was like the chief. He was in that one. So he's great.
He was really good apart from his fall when he died. That annoyed me. But otherwise...
yeah, a bit over the top.
I just thought it was a bit of a wet fall. But he's obviously just like gently placing himself down. But everything else was really good. He was really good throughout.
This is where we meet the poacher. There's always a poacher up to no good. And we're getting Sam and Meg vibes from this poacher.
But he knows the people. He knows, like...
Well, he's obviously like the groundsman of this estate. So he put up the force field. Again, having a force field round everywhere means you can't have any more characters come in, which is useful. But, I mean, he's a side character. He doesn't meet anybody else. And he's in it quite a lot. But then shows that you've got that threat of these looming mummies that are just wandering around, then shows the danger that everyone's in. Were you surprised when they turned out to be robots?
I was. Like I said, I was expecting Icemen, so...
yeah, I suppose.
In comparison, it was a surprise. But also it made sense for the story. Yeah, because you sort of needed something to do your dirty work for you. They always need that, whether it's like a lower servant thing that they don't, a tribe of something or it's usually robots. So yeah, it made sense.
But when they come in and kill Warlock and he's screaming, again, I think that's pretty adult. He's sitting there helpless with his arm and they're just like, he's like, no. Like, I think that was quite, for a kid's show, It's getting up,
It's getting
getting
there.
more.
It's getting there.
Because actually, going back to that horse
But do you
thing
think
that
it's
appeared in the
because-
TARDIS, if you had that horse thing that appeared in the TARDIS with Susan, she would just. I mean, she would get out. She would move out the TARDIS. That would be
Victoria,
her.
speaking of Victoria, we've not Victoria.
If Victoria saw that, she'd peace
God.
out. She wouldn't go any. She wouldn't be doing anything of this
No.
if she saw that.
But do you think so? I say this, I'm thinking of the Harry Potter books here, and every year they get darker, and that's because she wrote it for that age group. And as they get older, not only does the story get darker, but like the kids can sort of like, if you compare the first and the last one, yes, the story's darker, but also the material that you're dealing with is darker and things. And I wonder whether that's a little bit of Doctor Who in that sense, because the kids that started watching this in the 60s are either adults, and it's not like the kids show that it was of the 60s. So you either have youngish adults that have watched it since they were kids watching it, or you've got that sort of teenager bracket who've come into it. And I wonder whether it's because there's the question of like the era, as in we're in a different time, but also the audience has grown and grown up.
Yeah, I suppose that's the problem with the long running show, because you've got that audience that are growing up, but it's still aimed at new audiences and family audiences, and you've got little kids watching. And this is when Mary Whitehouse started to complain about stuff around this time, especially. This is when she was like, it's not. And I can sort of see where she's coming from a little bit. I mean, I love it, but I'm not a kid in the 70s, so But then I don't know. I just, with an adult mind watching it now, I'm like, oh, actually, if that's aimed at like younger kids, I sound really sensible all of a sudden.
Also, I think kids can just take more. I mean, you only need to read Roald Dahl stories, and they are gross, but kids love them, and they're for kids. So, and when they're all around like the 70s, 80s, aren't they? Those sort of books, a lot of those stories, and kids, we have this sort of idea of like, but kids like gross and disgusting, and they like. I know it's different seeing it, but I think it's because we're just so used to things being milder. And I feel like there's a move from the BBC here. They've got a younger Doctor in and everything. They're not, the last one, for example, the third Doctor was very actiony. They're not trying to appease the 10, 9, 8-year-olds. They're looking at that sort of broader target market that might include teenagers.
Yeah, and I suppose you do have the Doctor as the hero still, and he's still a bit alien in this, though. He's still a bit distant in some. He's very, but when he says we're all in danger, this is really serious, you believe him, and you see that Sarah believes him, even though there's still a few jokey moments and fun lines.
The threat
between them.
feels as big as the Daleks. Yeah, it's only a 4-part story.
Yeah, and I think that's the Doctor bringing that across and saying that. Oh yeah, well then talking about violence, the poacher is crushed then between two mummies. I mean, what a way to go!
I know
that was
a good moment.
And then at the end of part 2, you've got Sarah in danger. You've got to have your danger because the mummies come in. So the idea is that they're building this rocket. So the Mars connection comes in. That Sutex is trapped on Mars, and they want to build. They're building this rocket to blow up whatever signal thing force field thing is holding him. So they got to stop the rocket and everything. So then going actually into part 3, actually, I don't know if you noticed, I think Tom Baker's hair has been done between part 2 and part 3 because it's like twice the size and bushier, but in the reprise from part 2.
I didn't notice that at all.
I don't know. Everyone look between part 2 and part 3. Something's done to his hair. It's more bigger. Anyway.
Okay, interesting.
During that week. Going on to part 3 then, they leave Lawrence alone. Shouldn't have done that because poor old Lawrence dies.
So, right. I quite liked Lawrence for a bit. There was a moment where I thought he was going to join the team.
Oh my God. I mean, supporting character, he really is.
Yeah. There was a point where I was like, You know what? Yeah, you've been in the TARDIS. You've been to another time. You've got the science mind as well, but like you're still he's a scientist of the past, so he had that knowledge, but also didn't seem phased by things. I was like, potential here. And then he just became really annoying. And then he just wouldn't give up, which, fair play, he doesn't give up on his brother. But it doesn't matter how much they tell him, doesn't matter how much it's explained, doesn't matter the fact that they've taken him to the future so he sees it. He still doesn't believe it.
Is that his? Yeah, I mean, I liked him, and he got on with the Doctor and Sarah, and helped out and got in, and didn't get too overwhelmed by everything. But yeah, there is something I wouldn't like to see him in every week as a companion. No, I don't think that would work. He'd get annoying. Yeah, he would get annoying. I can see how he can be annoying. Yeah.
And it was when literally, Doctor shouted at him. He was like, huh. And then, he goes, and his brother's there, and he's still trying to convince him. And there is and he dies.
But I suppose you would, because he doesn't believe it. He sees his brother standing there in front of him and doesn't. And obviously the Doctor, and actually when, is it when Lawrence dies, and then Sarah's quite shocked at that, and he's like, and the Doctor's like, well, I told him that it was, and very cold, and then. That shows actually the Doctor is alien. That's a really good point. It's really well written with those extra. You've got the adventure. It's a really good story, but then all these extra lines, the 1980 stuff, and then stuff like that where the Doctor's
I don't even see that as alien though, because actually he does care about life. His character's very much like,
oh yeah, he cares.
He literally was like, I mean, he got told 3 times. He got told at the start, then he got told and then just come in the TARDIS and showed him all that. Then after all that happened, and they shouted at him about it, and then even before they left, they were like, "Do listen." He got told plenty of times, and he just. I
swear, is that the rule? I swear, there's a few other people that we've had that because they didn't listen to the Doctor, that means they're not going to be a companion. I'm sure there's some other people that have done that. Yeah, he didn't take it in.
It was a shame because early on, I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," and he was older, and I don't know since Ian, and
he got in there.
Like, this could be interesting. I mean, I don't know. So this could be interesting, and then I was like, "No, you're gonna die, mate. You are so annoying. You are just not listening. They're trying to tell you, they're shouting at you, and you're just crying about it. It ain't happening."
Well, then it's just really the Doctor and Sarah getting on with it, and. So the Doctor dresses up as a mummy, which I don't know how out of bandages you can get that shape.
I know,
he's just in the costume. That doesn't really make sense.
No.
And she did that pretty quick. I don't know how long they were there doing that bandaging, but getting him in and out of that. But then Sarah has to... So the Doctor puts in the ammo stuff on the thing, and then Sarah has to shoot it with a rifle from afar. So on the making of this, it was quite interesting that Elizabeth Sladen was saying...
Who's that?
Sarah.
Oh, right, okay.
It was a female director on this one, and she was a great director because she did, but she didn't really get on with everyone, and she was very much apparently, very much like the women have to be, strong characters, and you've only got Sarah in this, and she was insistent that Sarah be shown to be firing the gun. And that Elizabeth Sladen was the one to do it because they did have a stunt person to do it, but the director was like, "No, you should do it. I want to show that you can fire the gun." Elizabeth Sladen was like, "I've never fired a gun, and I don't think Sarah Jane would know how to. The character wouldn't know how to fire a gun at that precision like that. She wanted to play it like, oh, she didn't know what she was doing and maybe get it wrong, and then by accident get it right." But the director was insistent, no, you do it and you do it properly. And she says in her autobiography, she literally had 10 minutes. Here's how you use a gun. She's never used it before. Shoot this gun. And no one told her that the noise, and it really hurt her, and she couldn't hear for ages. And she was like, there wasn't really much point to that. It doesn't really, all for women's lib and stuff. But actually, you could have got a stunt person to do that. She wasn't happy about that. So, do you think it's in Sarah's character to fire that gun?
I mean, I can imagine her doing it, but you're right in that she's never done it before. But I can imagine her firing a gun. I can, as in, in order to not like just but like in order for that moment for that to happen and to save that situation. And like you say, by that point, it is just them two, and it's the whole world at stake. She's seen what the future is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she'd be that amazing shot to get that thing really far away, straight away.
Exactly.
Just quite blind. She wasn't, but the way she did it was quite. Yep. Okay. Ready. Go. There wasn't any kind of. Oh, okay. I've got to do this. There wasn't any sort of.
That's what. I was going to say. It needed more. I think probably of that, and more like. But then it also comes back to this thing. I mean, like, it's interesting you say that was the direct choice because me watching it, I'm just in that sort of place of like. Well, Sarah's just been doing this for so long. This is what she's just like now. Yeah, fine, gun.
Yeah, so apparently this director was it was the same director actually that did Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like, well, from what Elizabeth Sladen said as well, that she made them rehearse so much that they were just fed up of it by the time they got around to doing it. She said they were over-rehearsed quite a lot and it wasn't particularly fun doing it. Anyway, end of part 3, Sutek and the Doctor meet. So even by part 3, we've not met our main villain because we've had so many different people throughout. And then finally it's like you're going to the next layer to like the heart.
We've seen him because he talks through that scream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really powerful when they meet. Because there's a point earlier when the Doctor nearly goes through it by accident. So for him to make that active choice to do it, it's really good.
Yeah, and then part 4 is getting completely different because actually the story moves on. Everyone gets in the TARDIS and goes to Mars. They all get in.
Yeah,
We've seen a lot of TARDIS, considering we didn't have much TARDIS last season, and now everyone's all in the TARDIS and back and forth, and it's part of a plot point. It's needed. There's a couple of times in this where Sarah thinks the Doctor's dead and he's unconscious. We're going back to, we had that in the third Doctor, didn't we, a lot, where she was like, oh no,
Sorry,
and starting
again. Yeah.
Where she's getting upset quite easily, which doesn't really tally with her knowledge and experience of how all these things work, in a way. That's just a bit annoying because he's not. And she sort of knows that, but that's happened. I think that happened twice.
Actually, when he was taken over, like, that felt the most threatening and menacing. And I think that one worked really well. Because I genuinely watching it was like, I mean, he's either been taken over or he's just going with it as a joke. And you kind of needed that he's gone and her to be like, oh my gosh, like.
And then a lot of part 4 is going through these sort of puzzles one by one. A bit like, and they actually say a bit like in the City of the Exilons in that, I don't know if you remember, with the little grey guy.
Yeah,
going through. It's pretty much the same, isn't it?
It was, yeah, it reminded me of that, but shorter.
Yeah, you didn't have that floor.
It was only 2. That one was like many.
But it's interesting, and you're heading towards this centre, the Eye of Horus they're trying to get to, I think. And then it all sort of goes wrong at the end. And yeah, as you say, Michael Scarman, you see here, goes Horsehead, he's free, Sutek is free. And yeah, his death isn't great when he's like, I'm free, and then collapses. It's a bit over the top.
Yeah, that was the only sad bit with him. I was like, oh, okay. Fine.
Oh my God, so everybody dies in this?
Yeah, apart from the Doctor and Sarah.
Yeah, our whole cast. There was nobody left at the end.
No. It'll be a posthumous nomination for...
Posthumous.
Posthumous. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, posthumous. I'm just thinking of hummus. Posthumous.
It's posthumous, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Anyway.
I can't think, but yes, you know what I mean.
And I like the explanation at the end, even when it's not just like, oh, we've beaten them and he's got back. It's actually, oh, he's free. But then that scientific thing between the signal between Mars and Earth, you have that 2 minutes. That's such a clever way of explaining it because it's true. It's based on reality.
It feels over when they walk in and he's free. That feels like over. And we know we've got a few minutes left till the end of the show. But even then I was thinking, what are they going to do now? Because like he's out, he's free. Like, what are they going to do? And it was really clever. I really liked that. It's also the first time that they've mentioned that only the Doctor can use the controls.
We might have we had that. I feel like we had that somewhere in the Third Doctor time, but I don't think that rule is always kept. I think it's sometimes forgotten and sometimes not. I mean, generally though, it is always the Doctor that the user controls.
I wasn't sure if he said that to like stop him, but then I don't know.
Well, yeah, he could have just said it as well. I think it's quite vague.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the Master used the Third Doctor's TARDIS.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Time Lords. Only Time Lords can use the TARDIS. No,
he says it's only programmed to me.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a... I wouldn't stick to that rule. I don't think they do. And then we have the fire at the end, which is a nice sort of time loop thing, because they say at the beginning this priory burnt down and Unit HQ was built on top. So actually, because they were there, it tidies it up really nicely.
Although, when was Unit HQ built? Because if this is 1911...
Well, yeah, they said then the new building was built on top. Yeah, 1911. That's plenty of time to get to the 70s.
How old is Unit? But how long has Unit been around? Because when was London?
What do you mean London?
So it was the London Underground thing that's then started Unit, wasn't it?
Well, we don't know, because Sarah's from 1980, which then means the stuff in the 60s was the 70s, maybe. I think all Unit stuff happens about 3 or 4 years in the future to what it was shown on TV. So
for 50 years there was nothing there, and then Unit.
Well, no, they built the Priory burnt down and it was rebuilt, and then I think they used whatever was there as Unit HQ because it is sort of like an older building. I don't think they built Unit HQ as Unit HQ, because when we've seen it before, it is just like a house in the country, top secret organisation with Unit enter here outside.
Yeah.
But I like that they still mention that, and actually it was quite when the Doctor was a bit miserable at the beginning of Part 1, she was like, well, just give up being the scientific advisor, as if he's like, actually I want to go and travel now. Now I can. I don't want to keep going back to Earth, which he hasn't, or they're trying to.
Yeah.
So
we've had that before. We've had this sort of thing of like, he sort of feels trapped to that.
Yeah, I suppose actually the end of the Third Doctor, he has been free since then, but he was off a bit on alien stuff, but he feels like, he's still a sort of in a couple of mood swings, this Doctor, every now and then, which I quite like. But I'm glad you liked it overall.
I did, yeah.
This is really did.
It's just quite easy to watch and follow.
Yeah. Well, this is halfway through the season now.
Gosh, no way.
We've done.
I thought we were still so early on.
So
how long's the next one? Go on, break it to me.
It's only 4.
Oh my gosh, okay. What have we had then?
4. We've had Terror of the Zygons, Planet of Evil, and this. We only had 3.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it feels like a movie, feels like longer, but...
No, it feels shorter. I thought this was the second. I didn't realise it was the third.
Oh, well, and also everybody, when Sarah messaged me yesterday to be like, which one am I watching? Planet of Evil. And I was like, no, don't watch that one again. I had a bit of a... I was like, no. And then because I didn't get back to you.
I didn't for like over a week because we've been busy.
We had a bit of a... Yeah.
So I just sort of forgot what we'd last watched. And the trouble is as well with BritBox sometimes, so you turn it off your TV, but it carries on. So I'll look and it's like 4 ahead, but I've not watched them. BritBox has just carried on playing them for me. Sometimes Netflix does that. I just don't think I'm very good. But I turn the TV off, thinking it's turned it all off, and it's not.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll always remind
I have to
you.
Check because I'm like, what have I actually watched? I don't actually know where I'm up to. I've had that quite a few times where I've started one, and within about 10 seconds, I'm like, I've never watched this. I have to stop. This is not.
But yeah, I mean, you can see why this is such a fan favourite. So you've got memorable characters, you've got memorable monster, and Sutek and the voice. Just the voice alone.
We have not Zootek?
Sutek. Zootek.
I thought you said Zootek. Sorry. And I was like, that's not right. Sutek. That voice is brilliant.
Because you can't do much. I mean, it's the actor in that thing.
Yeah.
That mask is great, but if you had a weaker voice, you'd just be like, okay, this is a man just sitting in a mask.
It's just really low-key but powerful. it could have been really over the top dramatic, and it would have just been really like there, but it's not. It's really good.
There's a really good moment in this when Sutek finally stands up at the end. If you look at the bottom of his seat, you can see a hand holding his cushion. It's a very well-known moment. There is a hand, like it is a proper whole hand keeping it steady, as it's like it's a famous like bloopery moment where you can actually see the full hand. In that part 4, go back and see the moment he stands up. There's a hand, like a proper full hand of someone who's crouching behind that chair. But that also, stuff like that makes them classics as well.
Of course, yeah.
It's. No, it is good, yeah, and I really enjoyed this one. I mean, I've watched this one a lot because it's one of the early ones, so it's always going to be. I'd be interested to see if everyone else does like this one as much. I think they will generally. So the next story is called "The Android Invasion."
There'll be androids invading.
Do I tell you this or not? Yeah, I'm going to tell you. This is my favourite Fourth Doctor story coming up next.
Okay.
Which I think will surprise some people because it's not as well loved going from Pyramids of Mars.
Well, it's okay. You like some of the more obscure ones, so.
I do, yeah, I do. So I'll be interested to see what you think of this one.
Great.
I love it. I absolutely love it. We've had a good positive chat this time.
I know.
It makes up for the last two, I think, actually. Okay, well, we will find out what we all think of Android Invasion next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2WatchWho, and you can support us at buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho.
And thank you to all our supporters.
Yeah, see you next time. We better go and, go and have a walk around the park.
Sure.
the estate here. Make sure everything's all right.
Go in the forest.
Check out all the sarcophagi. Anyway, okay, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
2 Watch Who.